Hello and welcome to this campfire edition of Murder with Friends. It's the show where friends get together and talk about the darker sides of history. Today you're joining us on a supernatural themed episode. I'm joined by Jay Light, my former roommate and dear friend, Daron Dean, an okay friend. and,
average.
And sir, what's your name again?
Garbage.
Mr. Garbage. So thank you so much for joining us. So in the first two of this series, I'm not sure when we're releasing all these episodes, we have discussed the Vampire Clan teens. We've also discussed the mysterious death of Elisa Lam. And today, this final portion, we're gonna be discussing the Myrtles Plantation. Now, of all the stories that we will have covered in this taping, this is probably the most heavily supernatural and very light on the corroborated fact. But we're still gonna talk about it because there is a murder that took place. What happened here? We have a little help from my brother who has prepared a narration. Kempton, take it away.
The Myrtles Plantation dates back to 1796 when General David Bradford, also known as Whiskey Dave of the Whiskey Rebellion, fled the United States to avoid arrest and imprisonment and arrived in modern-day Louisiana, which was then a Spanish colony, to purchase a plantation and begin a new life. There are numerous legends associated with the Myrtles Plantation, the most famous of which is the legend of Chloe, a slave owned by Clark and Sarah Woodruff. The stories vary, either that Clark had pressured or forced Chloe into being his mistress, or that Chloe was caught listening in at a keyhole to learn news of Clark Woodruff's business dealings or for other purposes. After being caught, one of her ears was cut off and she wore a green turban to hide it. As revenge, Chloe supposedly baked a birthday cake containing extract of boiled and reduced oleander leaves, which are extremely poisonous. According to the legends, her plan backfired. Only Sarah and her two daughters ate the cake and all died from the poison. Chloe was then supposedly hung by the other slaves and thrown into the Mississippi River, either as punishment or to escape punishment by Clark Woodruff for harboring her. However, the historical record does not support any of this legend. There is no record of the Woodruffs owning a slave named Chloe or Cleo or any slaves. Other legends of Myrtle Plantations include that it was built over an Indian burial ground, bloodstains that appear on the wall from the Civil War that will not come clean, a mirror that holds the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her children, a ghost who practices voodoo on people who spend the night, and the ghost of William Drew Winter, who was murdered in the house and staggered up the stairs before dying.
So something that you'll find from what we just watched is that there's really only one confirmed murder that took place at the Myrtles Plantation. It's the murder of William Winters, who was shot by a stranger. It's an unsolved murder. And yet, the irony about all of this, it's the hardest thing to find information on. The one thing that we know definitely occurred at the Myrtles Plantation, I have scorched the internet to try and find more details about what the theories are, and all I can find are these ghost stories about Chloe, a slave that probably didn't really exist. So what is happening here, guys?
What's happening is that any building with any kind of historical relevance wants to sound cooler than it actually is.
Yeah.
And a good way to do that is to pretend you have ghosts.
I mean, and especially a plantation. Like, let's talk about why plantations were here.
Yeah.
Like, let's just chat about that. So, I mean, why would anybody want to visit otherwise?
For history, Daron.
Well, right, but I mean, it sounds a lot cooler to be like, we have ghosts here than, hey, this is where all the slaves were that got tortured and killed.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds a lot better. I mean, yeah, you could go visit to like remember what had happened to your ancestors, I suppose. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot better and a lot less, I don't know.
But that would explain a lot about the Civil War if it was just people being haunted the whole time. It's like, oh no, we're possessed. We're not actually bad people.
Yeah.
I think the biggest element that the Myrtles Plantation officially uses to try and further the story of Chloe, at least, is the photographs.
Yes.
There are at least 2 photographs that I saw in my research that show something that they're like, oh, this is something in between 2 houses. This is a girl looking through a window of a house. And the one in between the houses, it could be a shadow. The one in the actual, like, oh, it's someone who looked through the camera and you see something looking through a window. That looks it doesn't look like a ghost. They're like, can you see the little girl? No, I don't see a little girl looking through a window. I see curtains that are poorly
I saw a
maintained.
little girl,
I saw a
but
little
like
girl.
that
I
could
didn't
have
see a little
easily
girl.
been doctored into.
Yeah,
though.
for
It
sure.
looks doctored.
And if you guys Googled Myrtle Plantation last night, there was a story that came out 2 days ago about another sighting.
No way.
A group of women went on like a tourist trip there together, and they took a selfie in front of the house, and in the window behind them, there's a freaking face. And the Myrtle Plantation posted it on their Facebook, and like a couple news places had picked it up.
That's insane. I mean,
But like when you're doing it with like that level of like, yeah, look at this, there's ghosts here. Like, there's no way that's real.
that's like, we need to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Please believe that
Yeah.
there are
Please
ghosts
come
here.
to this, relic of slavery and enjoy
Yeah.
yourselves because it might be haunted.
Well, I think it's just crazy too that they're leaning into this creepy legend of a girl that we don't know exists. So I had my brother help me with some research on this, and what he kept relaying to me, and he was really frustrated that we were even covering this because he was like, it's not true. And you guys have gotten to know my brother's personality through the narrations, I hope. He was very frustrated because he wanted to learn about the murder of William Winters, and all he was finding was this kind of crock of shit stories about Chloe that were changing all the time. And what he was saying is that it seems as though the Woodruffs kept extensive records of on the property, and yet there is no record that can be corroborated by historical scholars that Chloe existed, and that was because at that time slaves were property that was their property at the time.
Yeah.
So it's a major loose end that people seem to be ignoring. That why would this ghost even exist in the first place if the person never existed?
it's not so much a loose end as just a rope that does not exist.
A rope to nowhere. That's actually a pretty troubling analogy. Given that they say that she was maybe hanged.
Yeah. But look, who says the ghost has to be a Chloe though? Like, there was a lot of people that died at this plantation throughout the years. And if you guys read the history, there was an outbreak of yellow fever there that killed like half the Woodruff family, and I'm sure a lot of slaves died the same way or other ways. So it could be anything. And like, I personally, I believe in ghosts, and I think there is a scientific way to prove it. Like, if you want to like look into it, go read about ghosts and quantum mechanics. It's really interesting. Some really interesting articles about it. But I'm curious to hear if you guys believe if the ghosts can exist.
I think ghosts exist. I think they totally can. I work at a haunted place.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I work at a haunted comedy club.
Oh, that's amazing.
The Comedy Store's super haunted.
Have you
I've
experienced anything?
Yeah,
We have to hear that.
I can't believe, honestly, it didn't even occur to me to tell you that we should talk about this. But the Comedy Store, because it used to be, so I work at the Comedy Store for those at home. But this was a place that was owned by the mob in a previous lifetime, and there were killings that happened in the basement. The upstairs was used as a underground abortion clinic for many years.
Wow.
And the basement was where people were murdered, who got on the wrong side of like Mickey Cohen, etc. And I have seen like weird shadows and weird mists and stuff. There was a night that I was working, there was a comic who was on stage, and he felt something, he felt something cold, and he asked if we had turned the air conditioning on. Air conditioning was not on. Someone took a picture, and you look at the picture, and there's a little ball, an orb of something next to him on stage.
Ghost orb,
Yeah. I mean, I believe in ghosts.
Me too. Quantum mechanics and ghosts, it's crazy.
Couldn't that just be a light fragment?
It could, but like,
I'm even a science person, and I have trouble not believing in ghosts.
Yeah.
That said, however, because I feel like ghosts and hauntings, it's kind of this phenomenon that people love to think about. I mean, I have a picture that like always falls down only because it doesn't have like a little backing to it, and I'm automatically, whenever it falls, even though I know it's because I'm just lazy and like won't put it in the correct frame, I'm like, there's something here. So I think having that thought in your head makes you already, like when things happen that aren't necessarily explained or you don't see, or you kind of have a feeling, you automatically go to that place where there's something
Power
at
of
work here.
suggestion,
Yeah, exactly. There's something at work here, but I do believe in ghosts. I haven't experienced anything like that, but it's hard for me to not believe that there is something like that out there.
Okay, so back to Myrtles Plantation. Like, let's talk about it within this, guys.
Right.
How does this lore start? Because I think, Amir, you bring up a good point. A lot of the family, the Woodruff family that owned this plantation, did die of yellow fever. Is it possible that for whatever reason over the years and years and years, from the 1800s up until now, the 21st century, that sort of became warped in how did they die? It wasn't yellow fever, or we're not sure if they had yellow fever. Maybe there was they ate something, and who did they eat it from? Oh, it could have been a slave that they owned at the time. And then how does lore begin?
Any structure that has a long enough history that goes through this many hands, I think there's gonna be some lore attached to it. This building is very old. It's had several owners at this point. And then to top it off, there was that one picture that started it all, of that shadow that looked like someone. So like combine all of these things together, it's a perfect recipe for creating a haunting like this.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the name Chloe though?
I mean, to me, it's more like a storytelling thing. So somewhere along the line, maybe somebody wanted to teach a kid a lesson to not do something, or else this ghost is gonna haunt you and get you or something. So it doesn't really matter what the name is. They made up a story so that somebody would believe in it, so that they would or would not act a certain way. I mean, if somebody told me that story in my house when I was growing up, yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone in the attic and peeked around, you know what I mean? So for me, I think it's more of they're trying to tell a story to get some sort of reaction out of kids or adults to act a certain way. I don't know.
And by acting a certain way, it's give them your money.
Give me your money.
So that you can hang out at this haunted
yeah,
place.
Exactly.
Please act that way.
Yeah, no, but I feel like more so back in the day, maybe a mom or somebody was telling a kid this story so that they wouldn't act up, so that they wouldn't be haunted by the ghosts that are at the Myrtles Plantation. I don't know. That's my take on it.
What do you think, Jay?
I mean, I am sort of in the same mental space as Amir here. I think that the building or the plantation been owned, it's got a long history to it. Somewhere along the line, when it starts to be used as a historical site of whatever note that it is, a museum or just a landmark that people can come visit, there has to be something that's more of a hook, and there's an easy way to take what is a very obvious and recorded story of the diet of yellow fever and change it into something a little bit more sinister, a little bit more supernatural, given that they do have the photos, and given that there is the high likelihood that most of the people who visit this plantation are not going to go and do the level of research required to uncover oh, this is a bullshit story.
I can see how it happens. They had yellow fever, they died, they were poisoned, it was mysterious, and how that can just grow over time. What I'd be really curious in the comment section below from you guys is what you can find on the murder of William Winters, because the fact that there's an unsolved murder and no one at the Myrtles Plantation seems to offer much of an explanation, a stranger shot him on the porch and then he wandered up the stairs.
Go more with that too,
that's
because that's the actual. You could look into info on that.
You can look into, it's crazy. I was trying to find out what were his dealings at the time, what was he involved in, what did he have a hand in, who had a motive to kill this man, and it's just zilch.
I'm gonna throw out a theory right now, is that the Myrtles Plantation knows that story happened, obviously, and is deliberately keeping down the stories, are suppressing the info because they want to put forward this story about Chloe.
Yeah, they're like, no, ignore that one. He did something really bad. You're not going to want to visit. Back to Chloe. That's going to do it for everything we can talk about today with the Myrtles Plantation. But we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Had you heard about the Myrtles Plantation? Maybe you visited it. I've heard a number of different accounts of the people that give the tours there, so maybe you have a different story. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Murder with Friends. Hey guys, if you like Murder with Friends and you want to support our show, we have a special offer from our parent network, TYT. So head over to tytnetwork.com/gift and you can get 3 months of TYT membership for only $25. What do you get with that membership? You get a lot of exclusive Murder with Friends content. You can download all our episodes. You can listen to them as podcasts. We have some discussions and entire episodes that have never been up on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, head on over to tytnetwork.com/gift. Merry Christmas from all of us at Murder with Friends. We hope it's happy, but also spooky.